My husband, we'll call him John, and I have been married for 3 years and together for 6, a total of 9 years. Throughout our years, I have been finding out bits and pieces of things he's hidden and things he's lied about. All the lies led to me finally figuring out he cheated more than once. I found out almost 2 weeks ago. The first time I caught him cheating was within our first year. I looked through his phone messages and saw a sext message exchange between him and a cisgender woman. They spoke of his girlfriend and how I wouldn't find anything out. This was the first offense, which devastated me to my core. Up until then, he was a stand-up guy with a good reputation. We both cried and stayed up all night being completely vulnerable. He convinced me he would never do anything like that again and assured me that he wanted me long-term. I forgave, but I never forgot. My emotions were so messed up I ended up on Lexapro and saw a therapist to help me trust again. After that happened, I found myself obsessing over finding out more, so I would discover things here and there, but to my knowledge, he never cheated again. One time I found unclothed photos from a transgender woman in his email and asked him about it. He was hesitant, but eventually told me it was something he explored and thought he could be open to, but the door was now closed, so I let it go. I would find things here and there on his algorithm that involved transgender women, but I let it go because I wanted him to know I didn't shame him for his attraction. About a month ago, I caught him switching Snapchat accounts, posting a selfie on one, and then switching back to the Snapchat account I know of. I saw it and confronted him, but as soon as I did, he ran out of the house and deleted it. We have a 2-year-old together, so I was unable to chase him to see what was on there. According to him, he used this Snapchat to view intimacy videos from Instagram models and girls he would talk to on dating apps. He sent a selfie to his story to see if any of the intimacy videos accounts he had on there would send him unclothed photos. He swore and assured me and cried and made me truly believe that was the big secret he had been hiding, and swore to me that he wasn't talking to anyone on it and that he never physically cheated. Once again, I forgave but didn't forget. 2 weeks ago, I found a message that was blocked on his phone. I confronted him and he admitted that the woman was someone he used to text in order to try to get unclothed photos from. This woman is transgender and he admitted that. He only told me that the interactions were only via text and promised me he never met her. I, on the other hand, decided to message the woman to ask her about it all. As soon as I was getting close to finding out he cheated, he ran out of the house and called a therapist for himself because he knew I was going to find out. He is claiming to have an intimacy videos addiction and a transgender woman fetish that was the catalyst for cheating. He even texted her and asked her to stop talking to me before I called her. Luckily, she was kind and assured me she didn't know he was married with a child and she would pry. But he would never say that he was in a relationship. She is the one who told me that they hooked up, everything but intimacy, a few times back in 2016-2017 when we first started dating, and after I found out about the first sext message exchange, and again in 2018 when we were living together for a year. Additionally, I found out he was still matching and talking to women on dating apps until 2017. According to him, it was to manipulate women into sending him unclothed photos and never with the intention of cheating or finding someone else, which is hard for me to believe. After confronting him, he opened up about 2 separate things. He told me he has had a problem with talking to women with the intention of receiving unclothed photos from them, and he was still doing that well into our relationship. He also admitted to becoming obsessed with the idea of transgender women to the point of fetishizing and only viewing them as objects. He took this girl on dates, and the dates would always end with handjobs, according to him. He cheated on me with her 3 times from what I'm aware of. He is telling me that he has had shame in his interest in transgender women and shame from cheating on me, causing him to dig his lies deep and allow us to live a lie for 9 years. From my perspective, our only issues were the first sexting incident and a few lies I caught. But this whole time I thought he was getting better, and I really started to trust him again. Before this, I was so happy with him as a partner, and absolutely cherished our family time together. Now I am broken and so triggered by everything. I am still catching him in lies now, even after all of this was uncovered. He is still trying to lie his way out. I want to know if anyone has been through something similar, and if you believe a person like him can truly change through therapy. Am I wasting my time waiting for him to change? Will he change if he truly wants to? If this is a fetish, will that go away, or will he fall back? I am very stuck in the middle of trying one more time and just giving up. I have been through learning to trust and having that trust torn down by his lies 4 times now. This was the big secret. But something tells me there is more he is still lying about. He is now currently acting annoyed with me because I am still looking for more hidden secrets, and I know I should stop, but I am so convinced there is more. I don't know what to do. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Nobody with any self-respect ever stays with a cheater under any circumstances. Why are you settling for this? Am I wasting my time waiting for him to change? People always miss the point when it comes to cheating, always focusing on whether or not they'll do it again. They already did it. He's already betrayed you multiple times. If it wouldn't be acceptable again, why would it be acceptable the first, numerous times? Are you scared that you can't do any better with a cheating liar like this or something? Didn't you grow up wishing for something better when you finally found someone? You didn't imagine a serial cheating liar, right? So why are you with one? Comment 2. Pack your things and leave, or pack his things and tell him to go. He's not ashamed of his fetish, or he wouldn't be out and about with this person. He's only ashamed that you caught him again. Want better for yourself. Don't settle for someone who is so self-consumed with their needs and wants that they disrespect you the way he has. Cheating is cheating, and he's proven that he can't be trusted. Now for the update. 2 days after the whole Snapchat thing with John, I'm just sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the mess of my life. I hear the front door open, and it's John, home late from work. He walks in smelling all nice, but not in his usual cologne. Like I know his scent, you know? So I pointed it out, and he just shrugged, saying it was from a coworker's gift. Like, really? A gift? Right. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, but I figured, what the heck, let's check his phone again while he's in the shower. I start scrolling through his social media, and I see a private message from some woman with a profile pic I recognize. Her name is Aita, and I remember John mentioning her as a coworker at his new job. So, obviously I'm curious, right? I click on the message thread, and I see flirty exchanges that just make my stomach drop. It's like all the blood drains from my face. John comes out of the shower, catches me in the act, grabs the phone, and is like, "What are you doing?" We get into it, like a full-on argument, and he insists Aita is just a friend. Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, buddy. To ease the tension between us, we went to a family dinner at my parents' house that weekend. My mom's lasagna is always a good distraction. During dinner, my dad brings up the topic of grandkids. I look at John, and he's visibly uncomfortable. Like, it's not the first time the topic has come up, so why now? I noticed his nervousness, but didn't think much of it at the time. After dinner, while clearing the table with my sister, I overhear my mom whispering to her about John's past mistakes. My heart drops. Feeling uneasy, I pull my mom aside and ask about it. She just dismisses it as family gossip. I brush it off, but I can't shake the feeling. That night, I notice John is unusually distant, like spending hours on his phone in the other room. I'm trying to ignore it, but I can't. The next day, I find a receipt for a hotel stay in John's jacket pocket, dated for the upcoming weekend. I confront him about it, and he claims it's for a work seminar he forgot to mention. A work seminar? Really? I'm skeptical, but play along. I decide to check the hotel's website for more info. I discover it's hosting a weekend event for couples, and my stomach just churns. I show him, and he goes off, calling me paranoid and controlling. Like, excuse me for wanting to know what's happening in my life. That night, I reached out to my cousin for some support. She brushed me off, saying I should trust John. Trust him? Yeah, right. Feeling isolated, I decide to dig deeper into John's life. I'm going full-on detective mode on his social media and online activities. A few days later, while at work, I get a text from an unknown number saying they have info about John. I'm like, what now? I agree to meet them at a coffee shop, just to hear what they have to say. The person turns out to be a friend of Aisha, who spills that John and Aisha have been seeing each other for months. I'm just sitting there in shock, like, what even is my life? I rush home to confront John again, but he's already out, claiming he has a work dinner. Yeah, sure. The next evening, I attend a friend's birthday party, trying to distract myself from the chaos. At the party, I spot John across the room, laughing and chatting with Aisha, who is also invited. My heart is racing and I approach them. John freezes when he sees me. The color drains from his face. I call him out in front of everyone, demanding an explanation, while Aisha stands there looking awkward, like sorry, but this is happening in front of everyone. John tries to spin some story, but my rage is out and the crowd starts to whisper. Aisha eventually leaves the party and John storms off. I'm left standing there, humiliated and alone. The next day, John comes home and starts packing a bag. He says he needs time away to think. He leaves and I sit in silence, just staring at the empty space where he used to be. Days pass without a word from John. I'm just trying to keep my sanity. Then I get a message from Aisha, apologizing for everything. She reveals John told her he was unhappy in our marriage and considering leaving. So he was trying to leave me for her, huh? John eventually comes back, looking all remorseful, wanting to reconcile. But I'm done. I tell him it's over and walk away. Edit. I want to clarify that Aisha and I never had any issues with each other, and she didn't know about my marriage with John. She thought I was his ex. John had been lying to her for months, saying we were separated. I learned this from her after I confronted her at the party. Am I the idiot for telling my husband to grow up and take responsibility for his mess while I handle everything else? So my husband called me today to berate me about all of our financial troubles because I don't make a whole bunch of money to pay for all our debts. I have a small business that brings in a little bit of money to help with groceries and some bills. I am also going back to university starting in September, and we have 2 young children together. Last November, my husband got drunk at a bar, got punched in the head after a severe concussion, and blacked out in the parking lot where he got into a scuffle with a peace officer, which landed him in jail. His mother helped us pay for a lawyer, but now we are on the hook for the rest of the lawyer's fees. A few months after that, he crashed our car and got a ticket for distracted driving a week before we were supposed to move to another province. So we had to get another vehicle. He has a lot of stuff in collections that he accrued before we were together as well. Now we are trying to get all of this figured out so we can look at buying his grandmother's house where we currently live, but we can't afford to even get stuff out of collections. He called me today to say that I have to figure out what our plan is going to be to start paying for this stuff, because he thinks he pays for all the bills even though we split everything 50-50, and has now started to blame me for not having any money. It's not for lack of trying. I have applied to various jobs but have been denied employment because I'm a student as well as a mother. We decided that because I wasn't getting much feedback on the job search front, I would put all my efforts toward building up my business, which I have been doing, and it's going well. Now he's getting stressed out because he can't seem to save any sort of money to pay for any of his debts, and it's being blamed on me. I never ask him for money, always pay our bills, and ensure there's food on the table for our children. He continually asks me for money, and I send it to him for gas and tools he needs for work. I always seem to have money, so he thinks I should have to pay for his debts as well. Am I being unreasonable for thinking he should have to take accountability for his mistakes? He's always been bailed out by his mother, and now his whole family thinks he should also be the one dealing with this on his own. I'm supposed to be his wife, and through sickness and in health, I should stand by his side. But he's 35 and has never been held accountable for his actions. I feel guilty about not wanting to help him, but I also don't like being blamed for our financial situation. Is this abuse? Should I be helping him? I feel so lost right now and just need some guidance. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Stop sending him money for tools because it is not for tools. He is using and blowing his money on substances. Please consider getting yourself and your kids into some counseling because unless they are babies, they notice things you don't think they notice. And please protect your accounts, cards, and so on. Do not give him passwords, access, or anything else that he could use to gain access to the money you need for your family. Comment 2. My mom was bipolar. Please do not expose your kids to this any longer. That, plus her substance abuse, ruined our relationship. She died almost 2 years ago alone from alcohol because she would not continue with treatment. You will never have a stable life if you stay, and your kids will be messed up by him. Now, for the update. It's been just over 2 days since the argument about finances with my husband. Honestly, I'm just trying to keep it together. Yesterday, I picked up the house while the kids were at school. You know how it is. Toys everywhere, crumbs on the floor, just the usual chaos of life. While I was cleaning, I found this unopened letter from the bank, just sitting there like a disaster waiting to happen. It was detailing an overdraft on our account. Great. Just what I needed to see. The letter brought back all the memories of our mounting debts. I mean, how did we even get here? I have my theories, but whatever. So I decided to confront my husband about the finances during dinner. I thought maybe a calm conversation over some pasta would do the trick. Well, spoiler alert, it didn't. That evening, he came home late, smelling like a brewery. Honestly, I'm not shocked. He's been drinking a lot more lately. We sat down to eat, and I brought up the letter. He just brushed me off like I was some annoying fly buzzing around his ear. Changed the subject to how tough his day was at work. Like, okay, dude, we all have tough days, but we can't just ignore our financial mess because you're feeling sorry for yourself. The kids were at the table, and the tension was super awkward. You could practically hear the awkwardness. After dinner, I cleaned up while he flopped down on the couch to watch TV. I swear, sometimes I feel like I'm living with a toddler. I overheard him on the phone, speaking quietly but angrily. You know me, always curious. So, I leaned in a little closer and heard him mention the plan and getting rid of the debt. My ears perked up. What plan? What debt? Why is he talking about all this stuff behind my back? The next morning, I left for school drop-off and found him still in bed. Shocked? Not really. I got a text from him later about running errands. Cool, whatever. When I got back, the house was unusually quiet. Too quiet. I searched for him and found his car missing, of course. I checked our shared calendar and saw this appointment labeled meeting great, just great. I decided to check our family shared account for anything unusual. To my shock, there was a large withdrawal made that morning. I called the bank for more details. The bank confirmed it was a cash withdrawal made by him. I felt like I was going to throw up. Later that day, I got a text from my sister-in-law inviting me to a family dinner. I didn't even know how to respond. During dinner, my brother-in-law started talking about some new investment opportunity. I could tell my husband was unusually quiet and avoiding eye contact. Something was off. When the family started discussing finances, my husband jumped in about needing help. My sister-in-law casually hinted at bailing him out if needed. That's when I snapped. I confronted my husband in front of the family, asking about the withdrawal. His face turned beet red, and he stammered out some excuse about needing cash for car repairs. The atmosphere turned cold and the family fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. The argument escalated, and he stormed out. Classic. Later that night, I got a text from him saying he needed space. Space? Okay then. To keep my mind off things, I sold some items online that were just collecting dust in our garage. You know, a little extra cash never hurt anyone. With that cash, I paid off a small collection bill that had been lingering. He came home that evening, and I confronted him about his whereabouts. He admitted to meeting up with someone from his past, but claimed it was just to talk. You know that gut feeling? Yeah, I had it. I told him I was no longer willing to support his reckless behavior. I'm done being the only adult in this relationship. This isn't a one-woman show. Our discussion ended with me revealing that I was considering living separately. His reaction? He just looked at me like I'd grown 2 heads. To answer a few questions, the letter from the bank was unexpected and added to my stress. I tried to discuss our finances calmly, but he was dismissive. I overheard him talking about a plan, which worried me, and then I found out he made a large cash withdrawal. At the family dinner, I confronted him, which caused tension with his family. His excuse for the withdrawal was unconvincing, and I later learned he met someone from his past. I'm serious about living separately, as I can't handle this alone any longer. Am I the idiot for telling my needy husband to back off and get a grip? My husband and I have been married for over 10 years, and generally, I would say that our relationship has been wonderful. Like any couple, we have had disagreements, arguments, and rough times that lead to rough feelings. But through it all, we have always been a team and approached these with the mindset that we will get through it together. Historically, it has always seemed that we are well matched in affection style. Both of us were, by and large, less touchy people who found comfort in each other's presence during day-to-day tasks and proximity. I say were because in the last 6 months or so, this has seemed to change for my husband. He has become, for lack of a better word, incredibly needy. I initially assumed this was a bid for more attention from me, and I started off trying to meet that need. But I've reached the end of my ability to do so, because it feels like it just continues to escalate. Examples. While we have always had what I thought was a pretty healthy intimacy life, we generally would average around once a week. He started trying nearly every day to see if I have any interest in getting physical like that. And if I don't reciprocate his interest, he gets very closed off and acts as though I have hurt his feelings. Please note, I don't ever say I'm not interested in him, just not feeling like I want to have intimacy. We could have been intimate a day or two prior, and he behaves as though I've been denying him for months. We got an enormous bed with separate blankets for the specific reason that neither of us was really a cuddler, both preferring not to get hot or having to adjust to someone else when you're trying to sleep. This has completely changed for him, and he crosses the bed wanting snuggles every single night now. I have been obliging, but it is becoming more and more irritating because I really am very uncomfortable and don't like it. But considering his response to me declining intimacy, I do not feel like there is a reasonable way for me to tell him I hate snuggling before bed and to please just let me sleep in peace without him thinking I just don't want his affection. I also want to note, I don't necessarily mind cuddles in some context. It is specifically as I'm trying to fall asleep that having a heater which blocks me from adjusting my position as I please, that is my issue. Last night, I told him I was getting too warm after holding out as long as I could, and his response sounded like he could have cried if pressed. He wants me to talk to him, but does not have anything he wants to talk about. He will call during the day to ask how I am, which is lovely, and I'll gladly share about my day and ask about his. Once we have both summarized our half-day, however, he will remain on the phone just silently waiting for me to say something. If I don't come up with something to reignite some kind of conversation, he will finally sadly say something like, "Okay, well, I guess you're busy. I'll let you go." I'm not busy, and I tell him as much. I just don't know what to talk about. Even still, once we hang up, I feel like I've disappointed him somehow. Similar things will happen at home. I'll be in the middle of doing something on the computer or playing on my phone, and he will come and sit down next to me and stare at me. So I will set aside whatever I'm doing to give him my attention. When asked what's up or what he'd like to do or talk about, he tells me he's just looking at me. So I will try to take up whatever I was doing again, only for him to persistently interrupt with sudden conversations about what to have for dinner or if I'd like to watch a movie with him. I have no problem with conversation, but it's like he only wants to have it when he no longer has my full attention. In all of this, as I mentioned before, I first assumed that there was some kind of connection he was seeking that I wasn't giving him. I started being intimate with him, closer to 3 times a week. I have accommodated his need for cuddles as best I possibly can, and I started planning things for us to do together beyond just the basic day-to-day things that are relevant to his interests. All of this was being received well, but has done nothing to ease his constant pressure to have more from me. I would ask him often what was going on because he isn't blind to the fact that this is not how things used to be, and he would say he was feeling disconnected from me, which led to me just increasing all the things I've talked about with him to try and help him feel connected, which was especially difficult because I couldn't feel what he was feeling. Finally, I asked him somewhat recently what exactly it was he was needing from me, because clearly I'm missing something. He admitted this time he doesn't know what's going on and acknowledged that I have been really bending over backwards without satisfying any of these feelings he's having. I suggested a therapist, either for him or even as a couple. He said he was considering seeing an individual therapist, but he also knows he was previously diagnosed with depression and they will likely put him on antidepressants again, which he worked hard to get off of previously because they cause particular side effects that really are worse than the depression. Now for an update. I am at a complete loss. I don't want to see him struggling, but at this point, I feel like my own tank is running on empty. Feeling like he's constantly begging for more and more attention is frankly not attractive to me, and I miss having intimacy because I wanted intimacy, not because I thought if I said no, it would make the rest of my day stressful. I miss being able to go to bed and just sleep, rather than deciding how long I can handle it and whether or not that will be long enough for him to not feel rejected. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It may be that he is feeling a disconnect or distance between you, dealing with anxiety or stress, and doesn't have the coping mechanisms to understand and process it. There have been times in my life I've felt touch and intimacy started, and it wasn't about intimacy. The intimacy was about the intimacy, feeling needed or wanted, and needing to feel the physical touch, closeness with her during rough times where I was unsure about everything going on in my life. He may have changed over time too, and now needs the intimate connection with you, or feels a distance between you two that you may not even realize is growing. Subtle changes in your partner can and will affect your feelings of security and trust. Comment 2. Does he have any other outlets in his life, socially or for relieving anxiety, friends, family, hobbies, or athletic endeavors? It sounds like he is missing something in his life and looking to you to fill it, maybe without even understanding that he has that need. Encourage him to develop other activities and friendships, things that he can look forward to and enjoy and have as an outlet beyond just you. From my real-life observations, men and women really benefit from having a regular, sporty social activity with friends where they can get physical exercise and have a social outlet at the same time, especially if they have mentally stressful desk jobs. Now, for the update, I'm back with an update on my marriage. It's been a wild ride, especially after the last post where I was super stressed about my husband's neediness. My life has changed a lot since then. About a month after that post, things have shifted again in my household. After some tough conversations, my husband finally agreed to try therapy. I can't even begin to explain how many times I had to bring it up before he was open to it. It was really hard, but we eventually got there. The first session was super awkward. Like, imagine two people sitting there, not knowing what to do with their hands. The therapist asked a lot of questions, and my husband just kind of stared into space for a bit. He ended up opening up about feeling lost and unsure of himself, but it took a while for him to get there. I think he needed that push from someone outside our situation to really let it all out. After a few sessions, he started making some small changes. He actually started cooking dinner a few times a week, which was a big deal in our house. I'm not complaining, I love food and I love not having to make it sometimes. One evening, he even prepared a fancy meal for our anniversary, which was really sweet. I think we both needed that kind of gesture to remind us of the good stuff we have together. During dinner that night, he mentioned wanting to go on a weekend trip together. We decided to go to a cabin in the woods for a quiet weekend, just the two of us, to reconnect. On the drive there, he seemed super excited but also nervous. I could tell he was hoping this trip would fix whatever had been going on between us. At the cabin, we had some fun moments, like hiking and stargazing. Honestly, it's hard to be mad at someone when you're looking at a sky full of stars. But then one night, while sitting by the fire, he brought up our intimacy issues. I thought we were going to have a heart-to-heart, but nope. He became defensive and claimed I wasn't trying hard enough. The argument escalated, and we ended up sleeping in separate rooms. Not exactly the romantic getaway we had in mind. The next morning was awkward. We barely spoke, and he suggested we go home early. No big discussions, no resolutions, just let's get out of here. A week later, my husband's sister invited us over for dinner. She mentioned how happy she was for us, which felt awkward considering everything going on. The husband seemed tense throughout the dinner, and I could tell his sister noticed. After dinner, he pulled me aside and looked upset. He revealed he felt pressured to act like everything was fine, especially in front of his sister. I agreed, but mentioned that I felt like I was losing him. The next day, I found a note in his jacket pocket. It was from his sister, suggesting we should consider having kids. This was a big topic for us. We had talked about it in the past, but it had come up again and again with his sister, and it was starting to get on my nerves. We went for a walk to discuss the note, both feeling anxious. Halfway through, he got a call from his boss about a promotion. The call went poorly, and he hung up looking defeated. I could tell it affected him a lot. We had another argument that ended with him leaving the house, which was not ideal. He returned late that night, visibly upset and quiet. The next morning, he left for work without saying goodbye. That's when I decided to write him a letter expressing my thoughts. I needed to get everything out without being interrupted or cut off. We talked for hours that evening, finally addressing our intimacy issues and future plans. We decided to try a new approach, setting aside dedicated time for each other. It's a work in progress, but we're trying. The update ends with us planning a couple's retreat for the following month. We figured it was worth a shot, and who doesn't love a good retreat? Edit. Many asked about our discussion on kids. We agreed to wait a couple of years, focusing on our relationship first. The promotion didn't happen, but it led to more open talks about our future. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.